Give it up for Alena Murang.
I'm really bad with these things. Good morning, everyone. It's my first time here, and thank you so much for coming on a Saturday morning. Spend it here with me. So yeah, the topic I got really excited about is weird. And I'm just going to share with you, kind of using the word weird more as being different. How many people here would consider themselves creatives? Working in the creative industry? Okay. It's the first time I'm kind of like focusing on an audience that is from the creative industry, which I find really exciting. So I'm not here to like make big inspiration and all that kind of stuff. I just want to share with you some of the stories that I've had along my journey. My journey into art. So this was me, age 5. It was a drawing I did. It is of the Kelabit costume, traditional Kelabit costume. The Kelabits are a tribe from the center of Borneo, with about 4,000 or 5,000 people globally. And my dad is Kelabit, so I'm half Kelabit. And when I was 6, I learned how to dance. So this is my little dancing outfit. And I'm going to next show you a self-portrait done in 2013. I don't really know if you can see it, but this was a portrait that I did at art school. And we were asked to do a self-portrait. So what I did was I did a portrait of myself in mixed media, and then some people would come to me and be like, "Oh, it doesn't look like you. It looks a bit more Asian." And then someone else would be like, "Oh, it doesn't look like you. It looks a bit too European to be you." So I kind of just defaced it, and I started putting the labels on that people had called me throughout the years. From the age of 5, I went to national school, looking a bit different, and then I moved to the UK, also looking a bit different. So it's kind of, they're racial slurs basically. So that was kind of the way I saw other people seeing me. So I'll just share with you a bit of my background. I'm half Kelabit, so half Malaysian, and my mom is English-Italian. I grew up in Kuching, so I was born in Kuching, raised in Kuching. I went to national school, and people always get a kick out of when I say I did SPM. SPM is the National School Exams in Bahasa. I speak fluent Bahasa. After SPM, so at the age of 17, I went to do my A-levels in the UK, and it was like, it was a school in the middle of nowhere. So like, it was in Lancashire. Got Sabina from Lancashire there. When I was in Kuching at school, obviously I never quite fitted in, right? And so when I went to the UK, people started calling me Asian. Like, there's an Asian girl, and I was like, oh, but I just want to fit in these different places. And it never really worked. And then after A-levels, I studied in Manchester. I really wanted to do art, but I couldn't. I wasn't allowed to really. So then I wanted to do advertising, but that didn't work either. So I just, settled on business. So I'm a business major, studied in Manchester. After graduation, I really wanted to do something creative with the business degree, but I didn't know what there was. And all of my course mates at the time were applying to, the Big 4, to accounting, or you do like management consulting, strategy, all that kind of stuff. So I landed a job in KL, doing management consulting with one of the Big 4, specifically in environmental consulting. And I was there for 2 years. It was a very interesting experience. I learned a lot, you can put it that way. One of my favorite bits is PowerPoint slides, because you get to do the little colors, make sure everything's aligned, storyboard. I still love PowerPoint slides. And I think if you're creative, you know that if you don't create, if you don't be on PowerPoint slides, I started to get really kind of sad and depressed, and I just didn't feel like myself. I was, trying to fit into what I thought I should be. So one year I went to Italy, And we've got a family friend in Florence who's an artist from Florence. And I was just talking to him, sharing with him my work and everything, and he just turns to me and he says, Alena, why aren't you an artist? And I just looked at him and I was like, I don't know, why am I not an artist? And he's like, yeah, why aren't you an artist? So the story is a bit longer than that, but I came back that summer, I quit my job the day I got promoted, and then what's your sound effects here? And then I applied for art school in Singapore, and I got in. So a month later, I was 23 years old, studying foundation in visual arts with my 17-year-old classmates. I was there in a hoodie and jeans, trying to fit in again, you know, like, maybe they won't tell I'm a mature student. And it was one of the best moves of my life. It was a very, very difficult decision to make. But I've never been happier. I always tell people, you know, I was in KL living in a nice flat with a car, and then I moved to Singapore and I was living in a HDB, which is the government flats, one of the oldest government flats, which is so old it had a kidney dialysis center in-house and something like a funeral every other weekend downstairs. I used to live next door to my office here, and in Singapore I took an hour commute to school, but I had never been happier. And you know, I had way more work at art school than I did working in the corporate world. But again, I was so happy. So that's just a bit of the background to get you into the stories. And 3 years after leaving art school, I'm now a musician and an artist. I play the music and I take visuals and forms from the Kelabit people, the Kenyah people, and the Penang people. And these are people that live in the interiors of Borneo, so around where my dad comes from. And why did I choose the topic weird or being different? So this is not something you really see every day, or definitely not something you would have seen 15 years ago. Women were not allowed to play the sape. Women were not allowed to even touch the sape. So there's a lot of, in my art, a lot of things that I do are seen as breaking taboos. So for example, I go back to the village and I learn old songs from the elders. And these old songs, they're no longer remembered or they're no longer practiced because when the Kelabits became Christian in the 1940s and 1950s, they put aside a lot of the songs and the art forms that were linked to their previous animistic practices. So they put aside like headhunting, tattooing, long ears, and then the songs that go along with that. So what I do now, or what I try to do, is I sit with the elders and I say, can you teach me a song? And some of them are like, maybe, and then 3 days later they'll come and say, okay, I want to teach you this song. So I've learned a few love songs. One of the love songs has elements of animal sacrifice and love affairs. So there's one line that goes, if you bring my lover back from the farm safely, I will slaughter a chicken in sacrifice. And these are songs that, you know, young girls are not supposed to sing these days. There's another song that I learned which was about the times of the headhunting. So when an enemy came and invaded a village, the whole village would kind of take refuge in another village. And when the headhunters left, they would come back and they would sing this song of victory. So I was taught that song earlier this year, and again, it's something that, I don't know, maybe 10, 20 years ago, no one would have been comfortable singing out loud because it was against their new beliefs. So I think during my time at art school, it was quite special in a way. We didn't really learn the techniques of drawing or that kind of thing. It was more focused on the soft skills, so things like self-awareness, social awareness, critical thinking, questioning things. So obviously during those 10 months, I started to just like think and question, like, what am I? How do I see the world? One of one of our assignments, and you guys should all try this or get your kids to try it, is to write down 2,000 questions in 5 days. And I'm like, why do you write down 2,000 questions? And they're like, just go and do it.
I like it.
So I started writing, like a bit smarter stuff, and I was like, why did this painter use this color at that time, blah, blah, blah. And then it started question 150 was like, why is metal bent that way? Why are lamps that color? You just start questioning every single little thing, even though it doesn't make sense. And it starts you in a habit of questioning. So then I started learning how to question who am I in this world? Why do I view you as that? And how do you view me? And so a lot of it got into identity. And that's when I started to become very aware and very comfortable that I'm a Kelabit girl. I don't care what anyone says. You can come up to me and say you're Malaysian, but you look white. Yeah, okay, anything. It doesn't get to me anymore. So it's what I identify with, and for me, that kind of awareness and comfort with myself has really helped me in my journey in art. So I just want to share with you some of the stories that I have of the Kelabit people, and why I think we're very different, and why people think we're very different. I remember in college, when I was in the UK, I was standing with my friend Matt, and we were just talking about something, and I turned to him and I go, "Hey Matt, have you seen those, there's some tribes in Africa that have the big lips with a lip plate that they put in?" And I was like, it's really weird, huh? Imagine how it feels like, and how do you talk, and how you drink. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, so weird. Imagine when you take the plate out, the lips are gonna, what do the lips look like? And he's like, yeah, that's weird. And then he looks at me and he goes, "Didn't you tell me your grandparents used to have long ears?" And I was at that moment, I was like, oh yeah. I was like, I think something else is weird, but you just look in your own backyard and people think you're weird, So this is one of the grandfathers. His name is Tepot Ribu Balan, which means grandfather of 1,000 tigers. He was a singer or a storyteller. He died in 2008, and I was very lucky to be able to learn some stories and songs from him. The stories that we used to tell, they would go on for days and days and days. But it's done in the form of song and call and response. So I can't do it for days and days and days. But the old people there, they used to have long ears, the women and the men. They used to have their ears pierced with bamboo. And then it would be weighed down with a brass weight. And then, so this practice stopped in my father's generation, but when some of the old people, so my grandmother's generation, they started to be able to go into the nearest town, and people used to be staring at them really funny, look at those long ears, they're weird, and they really didn't like that. They felt really uncomfortable, people staring at them, and they didn't look like most of the other people, so they would get their long ears then cut off. So you'd see still people in my grandmother's generation, some have long ears, and some used to have long ears, but then they were cut off and sewn up. So one of the grandfathers was actually trained in the clinic there to conduct the surgery. So anyone who wants their long ears cut off, they can just get it done in the local clinic. And I was only told that story earlier this year. And for me, I was like, sometimes, we see indigenous people or, Kampong people, and they're so beautiful and stuff, but actually we're all humans and we all just want to fit in, it's fashion, right? I mean, I would never have long ears. This is another story. This is a painting that I did on bark cloth. It's cloth made from tree bark. And this is a portrait of a man called Lucky Balo. Lucky Balo is a Penan man. Do any of you know the Penan? The Penan, they used to be the nomadic people of Borneo, and now they're settled down. They live in villages. And if you Google Penang, you'll find a lot of kind of noise and NGO things about them for rejecting the logging. So this is Laki Balo. Laki Balo is from the village that's next to mine. It's about 8 kilometers away. And I was sitting in his longhouse one day. He wasn't around. And we were sitting with the headman and his wife. And my dad was there, my parents were there, and they were just talking about how it's very weird that when you're born, you need to go and get a paper to prove that you are born, and you have to get paper to prove that this is your name. And now, especially, it's very weird because they have to go and get paper to show that this land with this boundary is theirs. And when they get married, they have to have a paper. And then, all these little things, they just find it very, very weird. And, I was sitting there thinking like, of course you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this. And then at that point I just realized, our reality and what we know and sometimes what we want and what we need to do is so different. And who says one is right and one is wrong? The thing is, if they don't get these papers, they can't send their kids to school. If they marry somebody across the border, which is 30 minutes away, so the Kalimantan and Malaysian border is our border, if they marry someone across the border 30 minutes away, they need to go to, some authorities or their embassies to legalize the marriage, and then if they want their kids to get an IC. So there's a lot of complications that we don't realize, and obviously they don't realize why this needs to be done. Anyway, so in this dense conversation, Lucky Balo, this guy, suddenly walks through the door, and I always say he could be Italian, he could be Latino. They're usually very shy people. He just walks in and he goes like, "Hey guys, what's up?" Obviously in Penang language. And he just has this biggest smile on his face, and he's just has all his hand gestures and everything. And I just look at him and I was like, "You are such a character." And I loved his face structure and the look in his eyes and his messy hair. And he was wearing a torn t-shirt and beads around his neck, and he was wearing a watch which was held together with pins, like safety pins. And I just said, I just have to paint you. So I painted him. But I think the story, I always have a story that goes along with the portrait. And the story that I always remember here is how, one person's reality is so different from another person's reality. And not just one community's reality, it's one person. You see the world in different ways, and no one is wrong and no one is right. It just is. And that's what this painting always reminds me of. This is Lucky Bala's auntie. Her name is Pahin. So this is the house next door. And this is Pahin teaching me an instrument called the pagang. The pagang, it's just that long bamboo instrument, and it's got 4 strings carved out of bamboo. So I was sitting in her house, and we were just talking, and my eyes kind of looked everywhere around the house. The house is small, it's about 14 by 14 feet, and they share the house, 2 people share that space with a baby wild boar, white owl, 2 kittens, and they use that space to keep their paddy and to thrash their paddy and to cook and to sleep, just do everything in that house, and to weave as well. So my eyes were going around the house, and I saw this instrument on the wall, and I'd never heard it before, but I knew what it was, and I kind of pointed at it, and she took it down, kind of wiped the cobwebs off it, and she started playing. And I think the musicians here might get me. She started playing, and obviously I was trying to learn, but the rhythm she was playing was in a rhythm that, I just don't understand. Like, every time I looked at it, I was like, what's going on here? It's not something that my Western trained ears are used to listening to. And even the tuning, I'm trying to figure out, is that, that string's an A and an A sharp and a D, but no, it doesn't work. So I asked her, how do you tune this instrument, the 4 strings? And she goes, she says in Bahasa, ini balas ini balas ini. It's just kind of this one echoes off this one, and this one echoes off this one, and I'm still learning the instrument. This is last year. It's very difficult. And the thing that I love about this photograph is that she's teaching me, and you can't see, but behind the photographer, her children, who are adult children, they're about 30, 40 years old, and her grandchildren all pour through the door, and they'd never heard this instrument ever before. They'd never seen it. She had never played it for anyone. And they just, sat there kind of going, what is this? And for me, that's so beautiful for them to be able to see it. Because when you ask them what music do they listen to, they're all listening to the same music we listen to on the radio these days. Sorry, funny thing about this. So she's playing the instrument, and you see there's a bowl underneath. So it's a bowl full of rice. So she started playing this instrument, and she was like, give me the bowl. And she puts it under the pagan. And she goes, sapika. And I was like, sorry? It's sapika. She's basically saying it's a speaker for the... I was like, whoa. I really like that. And the last image I share with you, obviously, is food, because we're in Malaysia. I was in Barrio last year. Barrio is another Kelabit village. And I woke up one morning, very late, at 8 a.m. Everyone gets up at 4. I wake up at 8 a.m. and my uncle's like, oh, Alena, come have breakfast. I was like, no, I'm going to go for a run first. He's like, okay, you go for a run, have a shower, I'll prepare breakfast for you. So I went for my run, an ice cold shower. I sit down, and he's made beautiful fresh pressed coffee for me. And then he serves me this, and he goes, here, have your protein. It's basically worms. We call it kalatan. I can't really say, but the pink thing, they're worms or grubs, cooked with chili and ginger. And then we have the wonderful barrio rice. So he puts it down, he goes, have your protein after your run. And I just look at him, and he just starts laughing. And I'm like, you better finish it. It's really expensive here. It's a delicacy, basically, these worms. They actually taste really good. So those are all the stories I have for you. I just wanted to kind of share how, I think I don't know how many takeaways, I didn't count. But I just wanted to share that, I guess, the thing that I learned through this whole journey, especially, of my life, but especially in the last 5-6 years, is that I come to realize that every single person is unique, whether you're mixed or not. That's where my problem started from. Whether you're mixed or not, whether you live in a different country or not, everyone is still unique, and everyone has their own different story. And I feel like, especially in this day and age, not everyone, but people are becoming more and more homogenous. You follow fashion, you listen to music, there's trends with what food to go and eat and everything. But I think once we can all just embrace our differences rather than looking at what is the same between you and me, and we just love the fact that everyone is different. And I think, this sounds so cheesy, but I think we would have so much more peace in the world and understanding if you just start to be curious about other people and just remember that everyone is human, and I'm different, you're different, but we can learn so much from each other, and we are all here experiencing the world differently, and we should all share it. That was my takeaway from this topic of being weird. So I hope you all go home and just be really, really weird and love the weirdness in everything and everyone. Just be curious. Thank you. Every talk I have to do some music.
Any questions first?
Yes.
Yes. So what we can do is let you guys ask your questions first, and then just have music.
Sure.
Yeah? Okay. So anyone got a question? Just
2,000 question, guys. Remember.
yeah. Keep questioning. Okay. Yeah. You gotta come here. While he's coming here, I just wanted to know that for those of you who are here in July, it's kind of an interesting combination because we had a guy who was talking about his project which is called Same. and we literally followed it up with but different. So that's what I was thinking while listening to you. Okay, so question.
Hi. Did you learn the importance of the bamboo extension on the ears? Why?
It was for beauty.
Just for beauty.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was aesthetic.
And did you learn the when it was started? Like, so it ended the time when they started cutting the ears, but when was it started?
I'm not sure. The thing with a lot of our traditions and cultures, there's not a lot of research done on it. There's research maybe a few decades back or 1 or 2 centuries back, but everything else was passed down by oral traditions, and obviously now, I mean, the oral traditions were passed down by song and art form, so a lot of those stories have been lost. So there's a lot that we don't know where or when it happened or started.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any more questions? We are like down to 1,999
One question. What questions are guiding you right now?
What questions are guiding me right now?
That's a good one.
I want to know. I'm still trying to formulate the questions. The first half of the year have been quite overwhelming for me as an artist, as an individual as well. So actually I'm taking September a bit lighter in order to formulate those questions and in order to answer them. But I mean, some of them are kind of like, why do I do what I do? I know I tried to explain some of that before, but I think it's kind of re-evaluating it and reflecting on it. Because with the sape and everything, it was a very personal journey for me to kind of express my identity and stuff through my art. But now it's becoming a bit more out in the open, a bit more public. Sometimes some people encourage me to go a bit more contemporary, or play with a DJ, for example, which I'm always happy to do, like to experiment with. But I'm kind of questioning which way do I want to go. For me, the instrument is a very spiritual instrument. But also, if we want to keep it alive, do we have to go another way? So all these questions, I think more about where do I want to go, and again, why do I do it? Yeah?
Are you collaborating with people who are recording history?
Yes. So I think my latest one has been, I don't know if you know a local singer called Amir Jahari. He's acoustic guitarist, and he has one song in Bahasa Sarawak. And again, like if you do songs in Bahasa Sarawak, they won't immediately sell because there's a big market in West Malaysia and Indonesia. So he's got me to play the sape on it. It's a pop song, acoustic song. I genuinely love the song. I sing it in the shower sometimes. Yeah.
Your last chance, guys. Okay.
Yeah, I understand you were saying that previously the ladies were not supposed to play the sape, so I'm just wondering, have you had a lot of resistance because you're playing it, with the generation, and if so, how do you overcome that?
I haven't had any kind of throwback or rejection of me playing the sape. And I always say I think it's because the taboos at the time, it was no longer a taboo, just people didn't realize it, because the sape that I play today is actually very different from the sape that was played 60 years ago, which was for healing rituals. So when I say it's different, like the shape of the sape is different. The old sape had 2 frets, we call it spirit sape. So the spirit sape had 2 frets. Mine is pentatonic, now they have chromatic sapes. It was 2-string, now it's 6-string. Like, the sape has just changed so much to the point that if I want to play the spirit sape, I don't know how to play it. So I think in that sense, I think if 5 years ago I went to try and learn the spirit sape, I would have gotten, people saying things, but now it's fine. And honestly now, today, there are people learning spirit sape, and it's cool. It's evolved a lot.
So what was the reason why it evolved from? What was the reason why the instrument has evolved from?
Yeah, the sape is a very interesting instrument in that sense that the community allows the sape to be innovative. So I think, this is just what I think, Christianity came in the 1940s to 1970s, so they put aside all those art forms and the music and things like that. And the sape obviously, the spirit sape could not be played, but from what I hear, the Catholic missionaries encouraged for the sape to be played, but for church songs. So the tunes, so they added more notes and stuff to be able to play the church songs. And then after that, people just innovate. Like there's people innovating the sape every single day. Like what pickup is better for it? There's a guy in Indonesia who made a double neck sape. There's 6-string sape, 7-string sapes. The strings also are different. So I think that's why it used to be a dying instrument, but I think in the last 8-7 years it has an uptake because you can adapt it.
Okay. Oh, okay. Let me give you a mic.
Thank you, Sasha. So, Alena, can people learn how to play the sape? And if so, where can they go?
Yes, anyone can learn the sape. In KL, you can contact me. You can leave a message on our website if you'd like to learn. We have 4 teachers in KL, and if you're anywhere else in Malaysia, drop me a message also, and we connect you basically to sape teachers.
My second question is, what weird, wonderful things have you got lined up coming for yourself? What's on the horizon?
Weird, wonderful things. Well, I don't know. There's a few things. I'm looking for funding to make the research bigger, so to get other people like me involved and to go and learn from the elders, because I mean you get the elders dying every year. A songbird dies. So to get funding to do that, and then to share it in the schools in the area, the schools in rural Borneo, because the kids there have, they're fluent in the language. I'm not fluent in the language, and they have the closest access to the elders, but they're not learning it. So that's what I'm trying to do, get funding to carry out that project.
Awesome. And how can people contact you? If there's people in the audience here today that can help.
So by Instagram, or drop me an email via my website.
Awesome.
Thank you. There's one more.
Okay. Wow, you guys really got started with questions. Are we going to the talent?
Does your music or art inspire those non-weird or the conformists to wait that they can create their own reality?
So does it inspire who?
The conformists and the non-weird people, that they themselves can create their reality as well.
I hope so. I mean, I don't really know how people are inspired. But I think one thing that I usually talk about as well is how I think indigenous people are always seen as indigenous or like romanticized, or you see them behind, museum glass or something, the craft work and all that stuff. Just again, like I hope just to bring, bridge that kind of indigenous urban mindset, or I think what I hope more to do is just to humanize people, like, I live here, it's different, and you live there, it's different, but we're humans and we can connect over something. That doesn't really answer your question, does it? I think you tell me, does it inspire you?
My concern is about those people that are living in the societies that depends on the socials for safeties and they're just conformist in the societies.
Sure.
And they do like really a way of their own empowerment
Okay. So I grew up in I guess you can call it a conformist society. I mean, a lot of people say your mom's European, she should be a bit more open, but I grew up in a very typical Malaysian society where I had to convince my parents a lot that I wanted to do art. I had to kind of break out of a mold a lot. And what I always say is, I think as long as you're happy and you are doing what you're passionate about, what you're good at, you will naturally find your way. I think our own barrier is really ourself. We believe that we have to conform to society, but if society, which is an abstract term, sees that you're doing well and you are creating good things, then, then what's the problem? There should be no problem. I think it's your own self. You have to convince yourself, basically.
Thank you. Okay. Just because you guys seem interested, is there any last question or should we move on to music? Okay, that's gonna be the last question, and then here you go.
I have a question about the music on the sape. Like, how big is the repertoire? Like, how many songs are there? Are you aware of this?
I can't give you a number. There are new songs being composed, first of all, and also songs that used to be a cappella have been translated to the sape because a cappella songs are pentatonic, sape is pentatonic, so people put it together. I don't know how many songs there are. On the sape, there's still, I probably know, 2%, 5% of all the songs, because the frets are movable. So for a different song, sometimes you would move the frets, adjust the frets to play that song. There's different tunings and stuff.
Thank you.
Okay, so shall we hear just one of them? Oh, do you need some time to? Do you need some help?
No, I think I'm okay.
Okay.
There's
Go ahead.
2 songs I'm going to do for you. The first is an a cappella song. It's called Midan Midan. I learned this from a grandmother last year, and it is a song that's a bit controversial. I'm going to put it that way. She's singing from the point of view of a young girl. The young girl is sitting on the longhouse floor watching the leaves dry in the sun, and she's calling out to a lover to come and lie with her, to shield her from the wind. Every verse she calls out to a different guy. So this is a Kelabit song. Kelabits traditionally did not play the sape. We borrow it from the Kenya tribe. So it's an a cappella song. What usually happens when the Kelabits accompany a song, they accompany it with the stamping of their feet. And usually I ask the audience to help me with stamping of feet, but if you don't have rhythm, please don't. I've tried it before. I've tried doing it before, and then suddenly the audience gets faster and faster, and I'm listening to this and that, and I'm like, okay. Don't stop, just follow me. Yeah. Midan kepada ukiran meretui kai kekolaia So the sape is very temperamental, and anytime it goes into like